What's up, guys? I am doing rear main seal on this guy again. The first time I did it, I guess I bent the seal back or something and it's still leaking. So I figured I'd record it this time, maybe help a few people out, answer some questions about the rear main seal on the Jeep Wrangler JK. This is for the 2007 and 2011 Jeep Wrangler JK with 3.8. I think the 3.6 rear main seal is a little different. This will also be helpful for people, you know, removing transmission to replace their clutch, removing the fuel tank to replace the fuel pump. Even those replacing their upper oil pan gaskets, I'm gonna take that off this time too. It's kind of hard to get the seal on there, and maybe I can insert a clip of it here. It's really hard to get that seal on around the crankshaft. The seal is super stiff and very tight. It comes with this collar. I'll show you right now. I just got the replacement seal. So we'll take a look at this seal real quick and then I want to get going. Here's the seal. I went with Crown Automotive from Morris 4x4. The seal comes with this plastic collar, right? Although it's pretty tight, I believe it goes on this way, so this would be the back side. This would be the side facing the back of the engine block, but this plastic collar slips over the crankshaft, and then I believe that kind of helps this edge of the seal slip over the crankshaft. I didn't end up using this white plastic collar. I just took it out thinking it was maybe just to hold the seal's shape right until you put it in, but after talking to a service tech that's familiar with this, they said to use that collar to slip it up over the crankshaft, and then you can kind of hammer the rear main seal on it, and then you'll be able to pull this plastic seal out. So I'm gonna try it this time. My way obviously didn't work. There's gonna be some differences in this Jeep because I actually haven't put it all back together. Like, for example, I left the front drive shaft off and the front dust cover off. I didn't actually put it all the way back on because I wanted to make sure and ensure there was no leaks. So that's not gonna be on here. That's gonna look a little differently than your Jeep. The interior is missing because I haven't put the center console back in. So getting started doing rear main seal, while you're still clean, I would just go ahead and take the shifter, the center console out, and the shifter. I think there's not very good light in here, I'm sorry, but I think there's a bunch of videos of that. This is a manual, obviously, so it's just this little Allen bolt, and take the shifter off. So one thing I definitely recommend before you start is to get this hood all the way up against the windshield, because it just allows more light to show through behind the engine and around it, so you can see on top of the transmission bell housing. You get those bolts up there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this hood up. You can see this garage is barely tall enough to do this, but once I get it behind that garage door opener, I can start jacking it up. Just major tools you'll need before you begin something like this, just to remove the transmission mostly, and the fuel tank, is a transmission jack. This is kind of a old school one. It's actually my dad's, but it works really good. I don't think they're that expensive, but you use a 1/4 inch ratchet on there to lift it up and down. Obviously some jack stands and a good floor jack. So next thing is just lift the Jeep as high as you can, so you can be able to get the transmission out from under there. You want it as high as possible, at least in my garage, because after you get the transmission on the transmission jack and lower the jack all the way down, it's actually kind of a big assembly, so it's hard to get it out from under the Jeep. And we're going to be taking the transmission completely out. These are 6-ton jack stands from Harbor Freight. They're cheap, they're strong, and they go really high. I'm pretty much topping out the garage at this point. But like I said, it definitely helps if you get pretty high. More room to work. Another thing to keep in mind too is when you take the transfer case out, the Jeep's actually gonna unspring and lift up a little bit because a lot less weight in there. I'm not sure how much it weighs overall, but I think the transfer case is at least 180, 200 pounds probably. So not that jack stand placement is super important, but it seems like just to the side of the shock mount, so you're not hitting the sway bar mount. It's the best spot. And I'm just trying to put them as outward as possible so I can have as much space under there. The other thing that's super helpful is a creeper. Not necessarily required, but extremely helpful. Last time I did it on my back, I was hurting for a couple days. So before we get started, next step, I just kind of want to show you what I think is the sure sign of the rear main seal leaking. The most helpful thing, probably under any car, is a freaking good light, but this is where the problem's happening. Okay, so I don't have the dust shield on here. It would be bolted on the upper oil pan there, and then on the bell housing in those 4 locations, bolt holes. So what I'm trying to show you is the flywheel is soaked. This was just after the initial drive, after I had done the rear main seal, the upper oil pan gasket, which is very dry all the way around. Very dry, looks great. Very happy with the Fel Pro gasket I got. Nothing's leaking now. All signs are kind of pointing to this rear main seal. So, oil, motor oil, engine oil is getting thrown on this flywheel, and that's dripping down the flywheel and then getting flung around the transmission bell housing, and then that's draining down to the bottom and then leaking out here, right here. And if I lift the back of the Jeep up to where this transmission is, angled downward, more will drip out. So I mean, oil is building up in this transmission now, and it's a super bummer. I'm very bummed about this. I kind of cinched up everything as if it was the last time. And I put in a really nice spec clutch, and it's driving awesome, better than ever. It's sad, but anyways, I must have done the seal wrong. So the other thing I want to show you is the things missing. Like I said earlier, this dust cover, the front drive shaft, I didn't put back on just because I don't know. I had this feeling like for some reason I guess I was gonna freaking take it back apart. I don't know why, but anyways, so I don't have drive shaft, dust cover, and I also don't have this other skid plate that would go from this bolt here to the fuel tank skid, and then to the transmission cross member. Those are some things that they're not hard to take off, and you'll be able to figure out. For the front drive line, it's going to be 4 I think there's 17 millimeter bolts on the front of the drive shaft, and then in the back of the drive shaft there's going to be a bunch of little 8 millimeter bolts, which I will be able to show you here on the back one. They are the tiniest bolts I've ever seen on a drive shaft on like a car. So for step 1, I've learned what works best is just to remove the front of the drive shaft with a 1/4 inch ratchet and a 8 millimeter socket. Only do the front and then zip tie it up out of the way. There's no reason to do the back. The drive shaft has plenty of room back here. So I'll just use some zip ties. But this part takes forever. So obviously get to as many as you can, and then just spin the drive shaft. So quick note, I actually marked where the drive shaft was connected to the transfer case yoke thing with some old nail polish. I don't know if it matters, but I wanted to put it back exactly the way it was. And when I did put it back, there was no vibration, so maybe it worked. Take those zip ties. I don't know if you don't have long enough zip ties. Just start linking them up. But there's this cross member right here that's like perfect for this. Well, that's what I'm gonna use. So the first time I had to take it off, just hit it with a hammer on these ears right here, and then on the CV itself right here. And it'll separate. Alright. So just trying to compress the drive shaft. Make room. Get out of the way. Now, I think a reason why actually this video doesn't really exist yet is because it's not a common issue on the JKs. That's kind of what I've come to realize. The rear main seal is just not that common. I guess it's a decent design. For some reason it leaks on this one though. One more thing that's a little different on this one is don't have a rear muffler, and I just have it muffler deleted here. I actually got this Jeep for $5,000 and it actually didn't come with a muffler. So when I took the transmission out, I put on new exhaust. So, okay, so drive line is secured with these zip ties on that cross member. And I collapsed it to make it as short as possible to get some room. When I do lower the transmission, after I unbolt the transmission cross member, it'll actually clear that drive line. It'll clear the little CV joint. So you'll have plenty of space to move it backwards. Time to look at my list. So starter and exhaust. My step 5 and my least favorite part. Starter's fine, but the exhaust is really only 4 bolts, and this Jeep doesn't have wheel wells, so it's pretty easy to show you. But there's just these 2 bolts here, coming right off the manifold. They're 14. The squares they're not supposed to be moving, but they'll spin and break the little thin metal retainers. So those are 14 millimeter, and the bottoms are 15, I believe. But first you'll have to disconnect all these oxygen sensor lines, and like all plastic sensors, you just need to be careful, take your time, and see what you need to compress to disconnect them. The starter is 2 15 millimeter bolts, and then a 13 for the positive power cable. But before I do this, I always forget, disconnect the battery. Always forget this. It's so simple, and it can protect a lot of issues down the road. Bam! I'm safe. Okay. Kept telling myself don't forget that. And these are important too. I totally forgot. Safety glasses. Where are your safety glasses? 15. So first I'm gonna get the starter out of the way. Like I said, these are 15 millimeters, 15 millimeter bolts. Before I get this completely loose, I'm actually gonna loosen the bolt on the solenoid. All right, 14 millimeter on the starter solenoid to remove that positive battery cable. Another thing different on this Jeep, it has this body lift on it that I'm removing as soon as I can. But it actually makes doing all this really easy because it gives like another 2 inches of clearance everywhere. Okay, so that's the positive power cable, and then there's this other I don't know what it is exactly, like a signal wire, but it has a little push button clip on it. Do not break it. It's really easy. Just push the top center of it towards the front and then pull it off. So there we go. Starter cables are disconnected. I'm gonna leave that right there for now. And then get the starter removed. It's actually kind of an easy job if you think about it compared to other vehicles I've done. There's a lot of space and it's really simple. And maybe it's just because that body lift, but the older JKs seem like they were built to work on. No, if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Just support the starter. Alright, take this last bolt out. Safety glasses won't help you. The starter hit you in the face. Yeah, that's a brand new starter too. I broke the last one. There's nothing cool about this, but you can actually see oil on the starter. There's oil all up inside that bell housing, I know it, and it pisses me off. Next step is just gonna be to disconnect all of these oxygen, these O2 sensors. You just have to follow them everywhere they go. So this one's pretty easy, it goes right above the slave cylinder, and it's actually broken, so it's not a great example. So I'll just pull that one apart. The other one on the driver's side actually goes up above the exhaust, right on the driver's side, top of the fender well. Let's see if I can show you. It's right in there, right by the brake reservoir. Brake booster reservoir, right here. It's got a clip on the top. Maybe I can show you. Get it off. Yeah, screw that. I'll show you after I get it off. Okay, so got it off, and like I said, it's right here under the brake fluid reservoir. But it has a little button on top. Bam, push the button, that releases it, and then you pull it away. So there's the other half of it right here, and that's above the driver's side fender well. So this can just be pulled down underneath them. Where is it? This is for the before the first cat. It's pretty high up there. Yeah. Just be careful with that stuff. You'll be golden. So both these are actually under here. The O2 sensor cables are under the Jeep. Alright. So they're right here on the side of the transmission. Same thing. Compress them. And I need 2 hands. Compress them and pull. So, same deal. Has a little button on the top. Press that. Bam. Pull them apart. There's one more. On the very top of the bell housing. It's white. It's right here. Oh yeah. This is cool. So this is cool because I remember you can have awesome access to this thing. And since my wheel well's already removed, it's a done deal. But if you see, there's like so much access from up top. So if you remove your wheel wells before doing any of this, I think it'll save you a lot of freaking headache. Oh yeah. Okay. That's all the connectors for the exhaust. So now I actually need to remove the exhaust, which isn't fun, especially when you're doing it by yourself. And like I said, this is a 13 and 14 box end wrench. Open end wrench, I guess. And it's kind of slow going. Not a whole lot of room in here for the wrenches to move back and forth. I'm gonna try a ratchet wrench. Oh yeah, baby. So I did put anti-seize on these before I reinstalled them. Now that might have made getting these loose a lot easier, because last time I remember them being a pain. When you go to reinstall these, definitely put anti-seize on the exhaust bolts.